incorporés.
Africains du Haut-Niger, du Sénégal, de la Guinée, du Soudan. Vous allez contribuer à cette éclatante victoire.
Quoi, guerre Gonden Baba? Guerre?
Après cette bataille, vous ne serez plus des indigènes, vous serez des Français.
En position!
Plusieurs de mes caporaux sont tombés, j'aimerais que vous les remplaciez.
Alassane Diong, Doftarum. Père Wande Alabama. Poten ko habe de ha Polen. Kunun ba wurtin hodde tumen. Jamfudan kuno do, wana anta jat.
Aswati musagad.
Meri yide chukulene wara sadatawa.
Tirailleurs. Je ne les tenais.
Kindly subscribe to Africa Saga for more videos like this. The success of Tirailleurs, set in the mire and mayhem of World War I, has helped resurface the often neglected story of colonial soldiers forced to take up somebody else's fight. A film titled Tirailleurs, or Riflemen, has touched a nerve in France with more than 1 million viewers in its first month of release by drawing attention to a neglected aspect of the country's history. The crucial role played in 2 world wars by African soldiers, many of whom were forcibly conscripted in French colonies. The film has been the subject of spirited discussion and public soul-searching. The majority of the World War I fighting takes place in the muddy, chilly trenches off northern and eastern France, which is completely alien to confused African conscripts who obey white superiors. The title of the film is Father and Soldier in the U.S. In scenes of mist, mire, and mayhem, countless lives are lost for the gain of a few hundred yards or a single hill. The grotesqueness of the sacrifice seems compounded for the Africans dragooned into fighting somebody else's war. From 1914 to 1918, more than 30,000 of the tirailleurs, as they were known, were killed. Omar Sy plays a Senegalese village farmer who enrolls voluntarily in the French forces to watch over a son, played by Alassane Diong, who is snatched from his sunlit rural home by France's colonial army and made to fight in the war. Rising from French trenches, father and son charge into no man's lands of shells and bullets. A form of attritional combat that Europe appeared to have banished before war returned to the continent a century later in the killing fields of eastern Ukraine. For more than a century, from 1857 to 1960, soldiers from Senegal, as well as from Algeria, Guinea, Ivory Coast, Tunisia, and elsewhere in Africa, fought for France in colonial wars in Africa, in the trenches of World War I, in the World War II campaign to defeat the Nazis, and in wars in Indochina and Algeria. By telling the story through a fictionalized filial relationship and locating the initial part of the movie in Senegal, Vadepied, the director, contrives to personalize the war's horror for the African conscripts. Their flailing attempts to adjust to the unimaginable are palpable and poignant. Soon after the liberation of France began in June 1944 with the Normandy landings, another landing took place in the south of the country that has earned little the renown or recognition accorded the heroes of D-Day, even though it would prove critical to the Allied victory. On August 15, 1944, and in the following days, some 370,000 Allied troops stormed ashore in Provence, near the town of Saint Raphael, many of them Africans, most of them conscripted in French colonies, as had happened during World War I. These were the troops who, alongside American, British and Canadian forces, as well as French fighters from the resistance, liberated southern cities such as Marseille and Toulon before moving northward. Yet their contribution has scarcely been celebrated. A presidential initiative to name or name French streets and squares after some of the African fighters has made only faltering progress. Those men were long nameless. Gaspard Mbaye, a Senegalese immigrant who arrived in France in 1988 and 20 years later founded an association dedicated to the memory of the Tirailleurs, said that he had been appalled to discover that in the Trabuquet cemetery in Menton, southern France, about half of the more than 1,100 graves of Africans killed in World War I bore no name. He has worked to rectify that. If you've watched the film, please share your comments below and don't forget to subscribe.